I think most people know Miss Temple. Um, Temple grew up in Potlatch and came down to the University of Idaho, where she studied and got her degree, met her husband, worked at the university for a while, and then saw the bright lights of the big city and moved to Vegas. Something about a job for Chad. I don't know. I guess that was the draw. Um, but it's our pleasure. Former coworker. Many of you on here have worked with Temple when she worked at the university. And she said earlier, I don't know if everybody was on when she said this, but it was the best job she ever had was at the alumni office. So, Temple, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you very much to especially Tim and Sandy. I have to thank you for my cup of my Joe, cup of Joe, whatever. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me. This is really exciting for me. Um, it's very humbling to be with all of you and that everybody's taken a little time out of your afternoon to spend with us. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's humbling. It's really good to see everybody though. Thank you.
So talk to us a little bit before we talk about you and book and everything about COVID-19 and what that looks like in Vegas.
Well, it's weird, and I'm sure a lot of people, if not everybody, could say that. Personally, I work at home, and so my life didn't change too drastically because I wasn't going to work, other than just down the hall. And my husband, Chad, works for Clearwater Paper, and that means he makes toilet paper and paper towels and facial tissue, and so he's essential. So he's been working. They have really pretty strict guidelines on how that all works to keep them feeling safe and keep them safe. But as far as our structure here, it kind of stayed the same. But when you all of a sudden get in your car and branch out, it's really quite spooky. And when this first happened, they closed us. The governor closed us down on March 17th, and that was in the evening. And by the next day, that was it. Casinos had closed at midnight, and then other businesses had till noon, I think, the next day. So we jumped in the car, I think, the following day and drove down the strip, and it was just surreal. It was so shocking because there was no people and very few cars. And anybody who's been here or even seen anything on TV knows that that's not Vegas. Vegas isn't meant to be quiet, and there's not quiet times of the day. It's always, always going nonstop. And so it was pretty sobering. And then the longer we went, I think it just got really sad for me because I have a lot of friends that aren't working. And as soon as the casinos and restaurants and stuff can get back up, I think we'll all have, obviously a better attitude about it or better outlook about it. So I guess they're kind of doing a rolling opening for some of the casinos. And if anybody wants to come on down and visit, it'd be great to have you. But it's going to take a while. I hope not as long as when the bubble burst in 2008, because Vegas really had a hard time coming back from that. So hopefully over the next month or two, or maybe by the end of the year when people are feeling safer, it'll be back to the all action, town. So thank you for asking, by the way. I'm sure it has their own stories. Every town is different, but I bet everybody's got worries and stories to share.
So obviously you have enough toilet paper at your house.
We do, but don't tell anybody.
No, I know. So right after this all started up here, there was a article about Clearwater Paper in Lewiston about how the employees would still get paid and they would all get toilet paper to take home.
Yes.
So they were tracked where they were going and coming. So
yeah.
Well, the reason that we invited you to participate today, Temple, is to talk about writing and your book. But I know your book isn't the first thing you've written. How long have you been writing? And how did you get started? Why did you get started?
Well, as a kid, I just really liked that part of going to school, the writing, creative stuff. and I liked math and science too. I just wasn't really, the hot ticket in those classes. But I really liked writing. It just was always something I enjoyed doing. I wrote stories, and I'd write letters to grandma, and I mean, just sort of silly stuff like that. And in high school, I enjoyed it. I had great teachers all the way through. Potlatch had wonderful English teachers all the way through school, first through 12. There was no K when I was little. Um, so, but I didn't know if I could ever do it for a career. So I just sort of like chose to be in communications with advertising option to, where you could use the written word in a creative way, but it wasn't that big plunge to be a writer. But it always kind of tugged at me. How you have that passion for something, we all do, or maybe more than one thing, and it just sort of is in that little voice in the back of your head. So I had some great jobs when I was going to school. I actually, at the University of Idaho, I actually was an assistant newsletter editor for facilities management. So that was great. I was writing the whole time. That kind of fed the fire on that, filled that niche, and I was still going to school. So life was good. And all my jobs, I've had some sort of writing to it, but not officially diving in. And it took a long time, obviously. I was about 40 when I decided I wanted to write this story that my mother-in-law and I had talked about, and I kind of, took it from there. And I recommend that if that's what you want to do, if you any passion, any job, whatever, you gotta get yourself in order. You got to get your finances in order. You got to decide if it's something that you're really willing to lay down your life for. Because when you're self-employed or self-published author, it's hard. You got to work hard to get the gigs, but I love it. So it was a good decision. I was burnt out on some of the things that I had been doing, and had a really good conversation with my spouse, Chad. And, he was like, just do it. We'll work it out. And we did. So I got lucky. I started writing for a magazine down here, Boulevards Magazine. And that's when I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. So that was a really great opportunity. Lucky, good timing. And then it just sort of grew from there. And I was writing the book sort of on the side for that during that time.
So I also know that you're writing for Heather and Tony Nicolai's Home and Harvest magazine that's published up this way.
Yeah.
How do you develop that partnership? Because you're in there on a regular basis.
Well, all y'all up there that know them, that are friends with me on Facebook, that's how she found me, I think, because she saw I would post stuff and you guys would be like, hey, this is great, so thank you. Social media does connect people in all sorts of ways. So yeah, she just sent me a message one day and said, would you be interested in writing? And it really was something I wanted to do, but I had just not asked, which that's sort of a lesson that you need to just go for it and ask and not be scared of the answer. So yeah, and she's great. They're great because she's like, just write what you want. So I like creative nonfiction, and I'm kind of a nostalgia writer. So I like to write about, pull in things that I know from my history or my growing up or the area's history or whatever. And then she's like, you need to try some fiction. And I'm like, for some reason it seems scary and I don't know why, because my book is fiction, but writing fiction for a magazine just seemed kind of, oh gosh, uncharted territory. I don't know. So that's a really great avenue for me to have, because I get to write what I want, and it really has been a godsend. She came when I was at a really kind of, I don't want to say a dark place, but I had just kind of been rejected by the publishing agents and community with my book. So that popped up right around that time. So what a blessing, right? Things happen for a reason. So she she came right at the perfect time, and I love it, and I love the feedback I get. So thanks for reading, for those of you that do.
Yes, I read that, and I also read your book. So can you talk about where, I think you've mentioned that the button boxes book idea came from you and your mother-in-law. Can you talk about where the idea came from and then how you turned it into a fantastic book?
There it is, Sandy. Thank you so much. Um, I was with my mother-in-law. We lived in Vegas at the time, and we tried to get home and visit. And she's a big quilter, and I grew up with like my mom and grandma made clothes. My mom made my clothes sometimes, and everybody quilted, and so that wasn't really a weird world for me. Anyway, so I was with my mother-in-law, and she was quilting, and I was just sitting in her quilting room visiting with her. And she just was like, wouldn't it be cool if you wrote a story about a seamstress, and it was like maybe back in the 17 or 1800s, and when she went to put buttons on that had been on some other garment, because they save everything and reuse it if they can, if those buttons told story. And so, fast forward a little while, and it just kind of kicked around in my head. I was like, that is kind of a cool concept, because if you think about it, some of your clothes have buttons, right? And whatever you do, they're with you and they see what you see. So you kind of make them into their own little, you kind of personify them, I guess. And it just stuck in my head. So I just started writing, and I felt more comfortable writing a 12-year-old boy, which who knows why, but I did. And it starts in 2004. That was so that I could go back in the family history and the family tree to get the setup for the buttons and the boxes and the business. So I chose 2004 for that reason. But I also just felt like it needed to be a little bit more current. So that was the idea, and it just came to me. It really is, when you write and it's right, RIGHT, it just comes, I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and it was just great. I did a lot of research because I do have some historical references in it and stuff, and I just loved it. I just was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So it was my mother-in-law's idea, but I just took it to the next level.
Yeah, so it's interesting that your mother-in-law played such an important role throughout the book. Family connections is really what it's about. A boy and his parents and his grandma. I don't want to give away too much if somebody hasn't read the book, but obviously family is something that's very important to you. Do you work that into a lot of what you're writing?
I do. I really do. The old saying, write what you know. So I'm a little like that. I can come up with fresh ideas, of course, but I do find myself referring back to what I know and where I grew up, or who I grew up around, or what I've learned from people. So the book was cool because other than two characters, the names are people who mean something to me, whether it's a family member or a friend or someone who made an impact in my life. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from that, because people are like, oh, I saw my name. Thanks for putting me in your book. And that will continue. There's some button dreams or stories that didn't make it into this first book. So that will continue. And it really means a lot to me, because sometimes those names carry, the person and their personality and their experiences. So they kind of add to my story to create that character. And then, of course, I had to get in some references to Moscow, and Crane Creek is where the story takes place, Crane Creek, Virginia. But my mom and dad live on Crane Creek Road in Potlatch. So, I just sort of worked in all of those fun things just to give the nod out to the people that have always been there to help me with my career and my writing. So, and it's fun. It's not a challenge, but it's kind of a game. It's like, okay, who's going to be the red button, or who's going to be, the antagonist in the story? And so, it kind of stitched it all together. So, and made it more meaningful for me, because the whole point of writing it, I wanted to get that feeling of family and connection. And no matter what your family makeup, you've got roots. And even if you don't know your family makeup, the roots you're in right now will make an impact later on you. And so I just wanted readers to feel good about their, family connections and history, and sneak in a little bit of actual history too, maybe you want to learn something along the way. So yeah, it's a very special book to me. And after I wrote it, I thought, even if I only sell a few copies, I knew mom and dad would buy one, and some friends and families, but it's a really special book to me for a lot of reasons, but especially that, because there's people who are mentioned that mean a lot to me.
I know in the credits in the back of the book, there's a number of teens or preteens that read the book or portions of it for you and help critique it. How did they help in the process?
Oh, kids are, if you're going to write about a 12-year-old, boy, you kind of, obviously I'm not that. So you really got to you got to throw out that net and ask people to give you, what is it like? And I did hang out with some kids that were in that age group early on. I asked questions. Your niece and nephew, Tim.
Yep.
Angela's kids were helpful, and it's just cool because kids see things so differently than an adult, but then sometimes they don't. But unless you talk to them and ask them, you might just not write it as authentic as you would if you really knew what was inside that kid's head. So they were key. And I had some beta readers. Most of them were adults and kind of knew what was going on, but I did have some kids in that age group. I have my niece and nephew, the twins, and my friend Cameron, he's got twins. That was kind of ironic. I didn't think about that till just now, but they were in that age group and they read it, and that was well down the process. I mean, I was done with the book and it was like, what do you think? And the feedback you get is just valuable. It's gold. So I don't know if I hit a home run on it. Maybe a 12-year-old kid or somebody in that age group might be like, I don't know. But I think I was close. I mean, the kids that read it now are like, yeah, this is kind of how it is. Some of it. So they're key.
I think it's a good reminder. I think maybe kids today don't understand or appreciate the family connections that maybe our generation does of things. And I think this book does a great job. I picked it up one evening and stayed up later than usual to finish reading it. Went back and read some parts to make sure that I understood some things. And will there be a next Button Boxes book?
Yeah, it's meant to continue. I think at the very least, there's just so much in my head, all the loose ends, that I could tie up, or the storylines I could create. There's Button stories that didn't make it in the first book. I think I said that already. So those are cool stories, more people that have names and involvement in my life. So I kind of want to keep going. It's just a matter of like, how far do you take it? My advisor, who is also my husband and the toilet paper maker in the family, he thinks I should start it out with Andy being in college. And I've toyed with that idea, and I've also toyed with writing where he's at the end of this adventure to pass it on to the next family member. So I'm not sure if I want to go clear to the end, but I don't know. If anybody wants to offer an opinion, go ahead, if you've read it.
I think there's more than one book waiting to be written there. I think there's more than one more.
There's a lot of history out there that you could use. I try to use I want to use kind of obscure stories, and I mean, I could take it, and I thought about writing like a book of just the Button stories, like as bedtime stories or short stories. So maybe something like that too. But I think people want to know what happens to Andy too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about sunshine and roses. Let's talk about getting the book published.
Okay.
Be real. Be real.
Some of my author friends sitting there are like, yeah, Temp, tell them. Well, I had everybody has goals and dreams and visions of their life, right? And I'm no different. And I wanted to go the traditional publishing route, which is there are publishing houses out there that you can work directly with. So there's that avenue. But it's best if you can try to get an agent, and you can research those agents and find the agent that's in your genre, which mine's middle grade, and see what they've published and who they represent. And, you can kind of fit like, yeah, that person would be a good fit for me. So that took a lot of research, a lot of time. And I wrote a query letter, which is, they all require.
Hey, all right, man. I'm good. How you doing? Oh, I appreciate
A query
that.
letter is usually required to tell them who you are and your story.
You all recuperated?
And
last time I saw you, you had your softball injury. You're all back at it?
So, and they require, like, if you want to send the first chapter or first
I'll come across
500 words or whatever. So anyway, I did all that research, and I put together this massive list, and I got it in a spreadsheet. I was just totally set. I was like, I know this is going to pay off. My query letter had been looked at by 2 agents who weren't in my genre, but were like agents, and they were like, yeah, this is a great query letter. It's perfect. And I sent out letters, and I'm not going to say how many, but if I have a spreadsheet, that gives you an idea. It was more than 2. And started hearing back with those, we're sorry. It's not going to, this is a great story, but it's not for me, that kind of stuff. So the rejections were coming in. I was filling in those little in the spreadsheet thinking it'll happen, and it just never happened. I had one agent ask for the entire manuscript, and that was really exciting. Got some feedback from her, but she said it's just not quite right for the bookshelf right now in the bookstores. That's what she said, which I respect everybody, I respected opinions and stuff. So I kind of was that was my dark time when I started writing for Heather and trying to just work on other stuff. I sent it to the corner, and I likened it to a little naughty kid. I was like mad at it because it didn't get me an agent, but we all know that was my fault because my book is me. And so I kind of just let it. I worked on other projects and just thought, I don't know what to do with you. I just can't look at you right now. I just don't know what to do with you. And so that's kind of a real reality. The publishing business is tough to get into. It's difficult. Look at all the books that are out there all the time. It's not impossible. But this one just didn't resonate with agents and publishers. And so I finally was just like, I don't know what to do with it. I'll just put it into a book form, use Amazon or KDP, and just put it in a book form, give it to my nieces and nephews and their kids, and that'll be the end of it. And my friend called and was like, he was part of my reading beta group. So he knew the story, he read it, his kids read it. And he's like, what you doing with your book? Because some considerable amount of time had passed. And he's like, what is going on? And I said, well, I told him where I was mentally with it. And he said, okay, well, why don't you rewrite some chapters? Because we talked about rewriting it from Lois's point of view, the grandma's point of view, instead of Andy's point of view. He's like, write me some sample chapters. So I tried and failed at that, and he calls, he's like, what's up? And I'm like, they were awful. I can't rewrite it. I'd already rewritten it once 2 years prior to that because of an agent's feedback. And I said, I just can't. It's just, this story is Andy's story. He's like, well, there's your answer. Hello, you can self-publish, Temple. And, it sounds kind of funny now, but at the time it was like this light clicked on and this fire, was lit. And I'm like, well, yeah, duh, I can self-publish. And so I started asking my friend Susan Johnson, who's here today. I picked her brain. She is published, and she had a publisher, and then went the self-published route. I have some other friends. I was part of a memoir group, and some of them have self-published. So I sort of just got that fear under control. It wasn't gone, but it was, come on, Temple, just do this. What have you got to lose at this point? It's either sitting on the shelf, not doing anything, or you self-publish and a few people will enjoy it. So I just, said, okay. And I flew by the seat of my pants and got it done. But it was really a very, it's funny now to look back on it, but it was tough, and the business is tough. It's not impossible, like I said, but for that book, that wasn't that book's path, So I do respect the publishing industry a great deal. And of course I would love to get an agent, and I will probably pursue that maybe on some other projects I'm working on. But the self-publishing world is really fun. You have all sorts of freedom. You meet all sorts of great people who are like, yeah, I did it too. Look at my 5 books. And it's just it's very freeing to know that people have that option now. And it's not like in the past, self-publishing was really like, oh, you self-published, it was kind of frowned upon. It wasn't the norm. But when you think about all the books that are available out there, not every great, awesome publishing house or publishing company can produce that many books, and don't we all just want more books? So I'm glad I went that route, and I'm very happy with how it went. It was really crazy when I was publishing. Had a few fun stories along the way, but it was such a great experience. And I do have to shout out to Julene Ewer, who a lot of you guys know. She's from Moscow and has her roots there, and is one of the most amazing illustrators I've ever met in my life. And I'm very glad to be friends with her as well. And she did my cover. I was so honored that she said yes, that she would do my cover. And she did my family tree inside the book too. So that was kind of cool that I had that connection to make the book just look awesome. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It was a growing experience.
Yes. Julian is an amazing artist, and those of us that have worked with her know it. I got a Julian artwork hanging in my office thanks to my sister-in-law and brother and niece and nephew for Christmas last year. Julian is amazing, and that the cover does help tie the book together in a lot of ways. So when we were preparing for this meeting, you talked a little bit about an opportunity that you have right now with some other independent authors, self-publishers, of some initiatives that you have going forward about getting more books out there.
You're my favorite, Tim. Thanks for bringing it up. It's really cool. There is a really great, solid, amazing group of self-published authors in Las Vegas, and there's a lot of them, and there's lots of groups, so you can get involved and get to know people. And a gentleman who is involved in radio and podcasts, his name's James Kelly, and he's also an author, self-published author. He's like, let's do something just outside the box. And so he set up a business, and it's a website, 1millionbooksin100days.com. And it's to assist us self-published authors get our books out. Of course, we love Amazon and Barnes and Noble and the local bookstores that carry my books. Retailers, they're great, and I will continue to work with them. But this is a little different because it's just self-published authors. Susie Johnson, if you see her on your screen, she's got her book out there too. I know several authors that do have their books out there, and we're all self-published. And James set this up and started it yesterday, I think was our 40-day. So we've got 60 more days. So I'm asking all my Vandal, Idaho friends, family to go out to 1millionbooks in100days.com, do some shopping. There is a whole lot of books out there. There's like 36 genres, stuff in that for every age group, every reading interest. And for every book you purchase, you obviously help self-published indie authors like me and Susie, but you also are helping charity. For every book that's sold, $1 goes to charity, and the site tells you the charities and why why you chose those charities and stuff. So it's a challenge, and we really want to continue with this and bring in different authors. He's looking to maybe do it in the fall too, but bring in different authors. But think about it, if you can sell that many books in 100 days, what an impact that would be in so many ways, in a positive way. You get that book in your hand, the thrill of the turn of the page. There's a coloring book even out there, lots of kids books. And it's just very near and dear to our hearts that are involved. And we're all very honored to be chosen for this, because it is James Kelly knows a lot of authors. He does Aspects of Writing and his radio show podcast. So he knows like hundreds and hundreds of authors. And so it's a real honor to be involved in it. So thank you for letting me bring that up, Tim. I appreciate you asking about it. And if y'all want to pump up your summer reading or buy gifts or whatever, treat yourself to a stack, like 40 books or something. Just go out to that site, 1millionbooksin100days.com, and look around. There's a lot to choose from. So, and I'll post on my social media how we're doing. We had a little meeting yesterday, and he wasn't giving us too much information, but he said books had been selling. So that's good. So, and it's a different way to sell books. It's not going out to Amazon, which again, Amazon's my best friend, because that's who published my book, where I published my book, and they sell a lot of my books. So, but it's just thinking outside the box, just so that we can get more opportunities to get books into readers' hands.
Yeah, I've read since a very young age, like you did, and being creative in that way. What advice do you wish that somebody had told you before you started this book adventure?
I knew you were going to ask me that too.
I was going to say, this is on prepared question list. So,
I think some basics, like if you want to be a self-published writer and you want to do this as a career, just make sure that you're, for me, we had to make sure we were kind of financially okay, because that was going to change. My income was going to change. And, that's always stressful, or can be stressful. How are you going to work? Where are you going to work? Are you going to have an office? Are you going to work at home? That takes some discipline. Just basics like that. People, I wish I would have asked more, just like, what's your day-to-day life, as an author that works at home. And I might have just been a little more in tune to what to prepare for. One of the huge things that really I can't express this enough, because I didn't do it correctly. You need a marketing plan, and that needs to be put together well before your book gets published, not just like a month before, or, as you're selling books, figuring out how to do it. So I've learned a great deal, and it's been a lot of fun, but I wish I would have had an actual plan on, what retailers am I going to pursue? Am I going to get an email list? Am I going to do a blog? Am I going to direct people to go to my website? Am I just going to do it all on social media? How am I going to get book signings, and just all the details of just getting your book out to people. That probably, I probably could have done a lot better with that, and will with my next book. So And really just sort of the soft, fluffy stuff. You just got to get out of your own way. Forget about being afraid to fail. Forget about what will people think, and just do it. If this is your passion, if this is what you want to do, then do it. And there are so many people out there in the same boat that would give you so much support. I've had so much support from friends and family. And I mean, here we are, right? Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out, because I've just had such a positive experience with people going, yeah, this is great. We're glad you did it. And it's like, geez, why didn't I do this, 5 years ago? Because I was afraid. That's why I was afraid to fail. So you can't be afraid to fail. And I really wish somebody would have probably pushed that further into my brain, that it isn't a failure if you just do it. Nothing's a failure if you go for it. I mean, you feel like a real loser when you get 50 people saying, no, we're agents out in the real world and we don't want your book, but you pick yourself back up and you just figure it out. You just go forward or start something new and go back to it later. So just don't be afraid to fail. And I know that sounds kind of touchy-feely, weird, but just to have someone say that to me, to say, what have you got to lose? If not now, when? For some reason, that just got me going. So if I can do that for someone else, here I am.
Good. Nobody has asked any questions through the chat. So I think, Sandy, if we want to open it up and let people ask questions, I don't know how much longer Temple wants to stay on, but I'm sure we have time for a couple of questions.
As long as anybody wants. I'm an open book.
But
Thank you. And my show will be opening again at the lounge at Caesars. No, I'm just kidding.
So speaking of that, you will be in Moscow soon, sometime between now and Christmas, signing books. You were scheduled to come up and sign books at Book People before this craziness happened. So I know you're going to come and do some stuff, maybe be on campus during that time, but we look forward to seeing you when you come home.
I hope so. Yeah, I would
and
love
telling you in
that.
person how great your book is. If you haven't read the book, you need to read the book. If you haven't finished it, you need to finish it. I had a friend once that say, if a book's not good, don't finish it. This one's good, so finish it. Share it with everybody. So
that's right. Yeah, I was really sad that I wasn't able to do the signing at Book People Main Street Moscow, because that was always a dream of mine. As a little kid, I was always like, wouldn't it be cool to have a book here? And it was such a home run for me when I got Carol scheduled Julian and I to be there together. I mean, it was just so cool. And then everything shut down. So hopefully we can get it rescheduled. And yeah, I'm going to look into trying doing something on the Moscow campus when I can, when I'm home and when we can, when you guys are open.
So I believe when you were home right after the book was published, you went into some high school classes, middle school classes, and talked to some students.
Yeah, my friend Cindy Faircloth, she's the middle school in Moscow, writing teacher. And if I trashed her title, I apologize. So yeah, there was 3 classes and they were right in my demographic, that age group. And boy, was that fun. They are just great kids. They were really attentive. I didn't have anybody messing around in the back. I mean, everybody was just so focused, and they asked questions, and they just lit up when I asked them questions, like, are you reading something important? Are you writing something? So many kids shot their hand up that they were working on some sort of graphic novel or some story that, had something special to them. I mean, they were just great. And I actually had a visit down here right before they closed Vegas. And it was a grade school. It was 6th graders. So they're kind of right on the edge of that reading level. where, the librarian set it up and she said, they're right there. Like, they're reading books like you wrote, but not like, not as advanced of maybe a 12-year-old, right? Or a 15-year-old reader. And they were adorable. They were so much fun. It's just so fun for me to be able to interact with the kids that may be reading my book. So yeah, if anybody ever wants me to come, I would to their school. That is something that is very special, very endearing, and they love the bookmark. I give them a bookmark, and for some reason they think that's cool. So yeah, that has been one of the great things out of this whole process, is being able to be with readers and kids.
I know people on here have to have questions.
Probably not. I talk too much, so I answered them all.
One note that I got, and I will bring it up because it was a good idea. You had mentioned that the 1 million books in 100 days may relaunch in the fall. And so just to throw it out there, that would be a really good time to do some Christmas shopping for people and birthday shopping. So
Yes.
Shout out, and that was a good idea by one of your listeners here. So
thank you very much. It is a great group of authors and books, and I've read some of the books. I have a shopping cart full of some of the other books that I really want to read. And it's great because I've met some of these authors with some signings I've done here, and it brings it together for me personally. But they really are. There's just such talent in this group. There's a lot of talent. So whatever your reading fancy is, there's something out there, I'm sure, for you. So yeah, do some shopping.
So in the book, there's a dynamic between Andy and his sister. Did you draw upon real life experiences? I may be asking this for somebody else on the.
I bet I know who asked that question, or I have it narrowed down to 2 people. Yeah. I was Blake. Yep. Only I wasn't as rotten as Blake it can be. I mean, I love Blake. She's one of my favorite characters. I loved writing her. It was so easy to write her because, hello, I was a great little sister, by the way, and still am. But yeah, I'm sure I tormented my brother. I'm sure I did. I didn't mean to, but I'm sure I did. So yeah, I'm Blake. And, I'm in a lot of the other characters too, but thank you for pointing that out. Whoever.
Yep.
Yeah. Blake is a good character. She might have to have, well, she had a pretty good role in this book. She might have to have a reprise in the next book. So to continue her reign of terror.
No, she was, it's great. Family dynamics. I mean, they're real.
Yeah, and my brother, I mean, bless his heart, he probably didn't realize, the impact that he made on me as we grew up. But, he was always a great brother. I'm sure I did torment him, though, and he let me know it sometimes. So I think we were pretty typical kids.
That's what younger kids are for, right?
Exactly. That's why my parents had me, to torment my brother and sister.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I don't see any other questions.
I don't have any from here. Write a review for her on Amazon.
Hey, yeah, that'd be great. Positive.
I'm your writer friend. That's a good one.
Yeah, Amazon reviews in the biz, no matter whether you're self-published or not. I mean, that generates a lot of goodwill towards Amazon, because they base their love for you off of that. But of course, it's always nice to hear. Like, I have some out there from people I don't even know who they are. Some of them I know, but some of them I don't know. And it just really means a lot when someone takes the time to offer an opinion. Hopefully positive, obviously. I've had a couple of rough ones, but that's part of it. It's just part of, you can't write for everybody. So, but yeah, anybody out there has already left me one. Thank you so much. It means a lot. It's a big deal for authors to get reviews. You can do it out on Goodreads, BookBub. Barnes and Noble. There's lots of places you can leave reviews, but Amazon tends to be the one where if anybody's looking, that's where they kind of go first.
We'll do it.
Thanks.
We will do it.
I appreciate y'all. So yeah, there we go. Is everybody holding up okay during this COVID crisis?
Thumbs up, people.
Yeah.
I
Two
know,
thumbs up.
I know many of you, and I've seen your journeys on Facebook, but the other people who I don't know, I'd love to hear from you.
Well, and I want to again thank you guys. You guys really had to think quickly and deal with a dynamic at the alumni office that you've never had to deal with before. Doing events when I was there, it was pretty straightforward. You know, you invited people to come and celebrate either on campus or at a chapter event or a pregame for football. I mean, it was, you know, about coming together physically and celebrating the Vandals and the University of Idaho. And I got to hand it to you. You guys really had, in a very short amount of time, you guys rose to the occasion and have had some really great offerings here, like the Cup of Joe series and other things that you've had. So shout out to the alumni office and the university. I mean,
University as a whole. I think
exactly. Teaching
really
kids.
well.
Yeah.
Angela, I mean, her world fell apart right, 2 weeks before, Angela? When everyone was supposed to come to campus. I mean, you guys pivoted really quick too. And I shout out to the University of Idaho. I think I'm really proud to work here. I think they've done a good job. Everybody's, you know, we're fortunate. We're fortunate that we don't have it as hard as some states do. So,
Well, it was amazing because I'm 1,000 miles away, and you know, you guys have reached out in various ways, and it was just really nice to know that you guys are always caring about us out here to get together, to stay bonded. And the students, I'm sure they were just probably thrown for a loop too. And I know you know, the University rose to the occasion on that too. So yeah, bravo. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Temple. We have a few more of these set up throughout the summer. We have Dirk Kempthorne coming in, Kristen Armstrong. If you read The Argonaut, we have Dan Buffett, Jimmy's cousin. It's actually Dan Buckfitch from the Jazz Choir. So that's our humor thing. So Dan loved that one. So Temple, you're in a great lineup there. We've already had Scott Green, the president, and Bruce Pittman. So thank everybody for taking the time to join us today, and check out Button Boxes if you haven't already.
Yeah, thank you.
Reread it if you, Temple or Sandy, you need to finish the book.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to call you out there.
I thought you did.
I'm getting there.
He's getting there.
It's not anything personal. I see something shiny and I'm just like gone. It's like, Pearl? So yeah, I have a short here. I'm on it and the review.
You do it.
Here it is.
And thank you for having me. It's an honor and it's very humbling. So thank you so much for everything you guys have done.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.